We often talk about developing a leader, but you prefer to use the word growing instead. Is there a distinction between the two?
When I hear the term leadership development, I think of pretty formal planned processes consisting of discrete but well-defined training and coaching modules that makes it easy to measure an individual's progress and needs. Growth, or growing, personally and professionally on the other hand, is something a leader should never stop doing. Growth is fluid and unpredictable. If you're truly committed to expanding your knowledge, capabilities, and leadership style, you'll find opportunities to learn and grow in just about everything you do. It's a mindset and not a series of planned out steps that you take.
What signs should a CEO be on the lookout for that indicates his or her growth as a leader has stalled?
Before I answer that question, I need to say a few things about the human brain. The human brain is not wired to be objective, especially not about ourselves. In fact, our brains are much better at denial, a trait that counterintuitively actually helps us to survive. Also, a single human will never know everything that's out there. This results in a lot of blind spots. It's virtually impossible for any individual to see signs that they are not progressing or they're making mistakes, to recognize them for what they are. People misread events and signals all the time. They misinterpret them, or they literally can't just see them. There should be enough financial data available to a CEO that he or she can gain some objectivity quickly. When the numbers stop being what they should be, a good CEO will start digging around for answers. There may be something going on in the market or the economy, or maybe his team is just not up to the task assigned to them. But it could also be that the CEO is not growing himself or herself, which easily translate into the firm not growing. In theory, the role of a company's board of directors is to ensure proper governance, and they should be able to determine if a CEO is no longer delivering on what he or she was expected to. They should be motivated to ring the warning bell, although these days a lot of board members are more interested in keeping their jobs and not necessarily playing the watchdog for the CEO. Other signs you can look for are high turnover of employees, more than usual. It may not always be about the CEO, but it's often a sign that whatever energy or motivation he was once bringing to the team isn't sufficient enough now for the team to want to stay together. In your personal life, family problems that don't get resolved, tensions that keep coming up with your wife or your husband, your children, and so forth. And likewise, your decision-making capabilities. If you find it harder and longer to make decisions, it could be that you're just not growing into situations that may be new for you, or you haven't really figured out how to handle them.
What can a CEO actually do to jumpstart that growth again?
Many executives hire third parties, usually a coach, to help them be more objective. A good coach has the permission to dig down deep and find out what's really going on, and to call into question certain things a CEO is doing, challenging certain mindsets that may not be appropriate or growth-oriented. A coach can make sure that the leader is learning and progressing. I have a client who is highly ambitious and is very much about growing his company. Unfortunately, he ran into a number of problems caused in great part by this aggressive ambition. The problem was he didn't see the link between personal growth and organizational growth. He came to me desperate because he was losing employees quickly, and these employees were going on Glassdoor and specifically citing him as the problem. He thought it was a technical issue, but very quickly I made it clear to him that it wasn't. It was because he hadn't taken the time to really think through how he was being. He wasn't growing, and he wasn't learning the skill sets such as empathy, listening, and so forth, all of which he was accused of on Glassdoor. We had a couple of very difficult sessions where I asked a lot of tough questions. And slowly but surely, he began to change his mindset about employees and, more importantly, his behavior towards them. He also had to rethink the kind of people he was recruiting, because he does demand a very high level of performance, and quite frankly, some of his people were just not high performers. He changed his personal ways of being, his understanding of leadership, and being a CEO. He also implemented certain activities that his firm was doing to ensure that they had the right employees, and those employees were being treated the way they wanted to be, and the way they should be treated. His company now has a mission and core values, and that's serving him very well.
What's the most important thing that a CEO can do to keep that growing cycle going?
The most important thing is to be committed. Without a commitment to continuous learning and growth, there's not a lot you can do. You can actually see the difference between CEOs who aren't committed and those who are really committed to growth. Perhaps the most committed CEO I ever met was Lou Gerstner, who in the 90s turned around IBM from near bankruptcy to a thriving corporation again. He was the embodiment of commitment. So in conclusion, I would say that those who have trouble with commitment usually face near disaster, and sometimes very often, whereas those who have actually committed to personal growth have businesses that are growing and flourishing.